Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to something a little bit different. Now, a while ago I uploaded a video on, I think it was called how to put multiple UVW unwraps on a single object, and that was a year ago, and that was in 3ds Max and UDK. Well, now of course the Unreal Engine 4 is out, and that video got a lot of attention, which means a lot of people wanted to know how to do it. So I thought I would do an updated version for the Unreal Engine 4. Just a quick side bit here. This won't count as a video kind of upload for the day. I upload a video every day, and this won't count as that video when I upload it tomorrow. This will run parallel to any gameplay video that I upload. So there's always going to be gameplay up there. But I like to do things like this and, just technical and all the kind of things that I've learned and show these off, and it'll run parallel to any game series or anything that I'm doing on my channel at that moment. So this may take a little while, but I'll try and explain it as best I can for people to understand, and hopefully they will learn how to do it from watching this video. So 3 things you're going to need. You're going to need some kind of editing program for pictures, whether it be GIMP or Photoshop or Illustrator, something along those lines. You're going to need Unreal Engine, of course, and you're obviously going to need some kind of editing package. Today we're going to be using 3ds Max, Photoshop, and Unreal Engine 4. It's a similar setup to what I did last time, and I'm going to keep it similar as close to last time as I can, just so if anybody's watched that and they want an updated version, they can kind of easily get to grips with it. If anyone's got any questions at the end of this, feel free to ask. I will be active in the comments every single day, so the chances are I will see that comment. So we're going to go ahead, and there's 3 things you need. First of all, you need 3 textures. In this tutorial, we're going to be using 3 textures. You could have 4 textures, 5 textures, all the way up to 100 textures. You can have as many as you want. But the process will be the exact same. But I'm going to be using 3 for this example. I've just got 3 random textures. We've got a kind of a brick texture here. Then we've got kind of a rocky cliff texture. And then we've got some Egyptian hieroglyphs here. And the first thing you're going to want to do is actually resize all of these images. Now they need to be at a power of 2. So if we have a look at what these are already, they're 700 by 700, and I think they all are 700 by 700. And if anybody's wondering where I got these from, it's CG Textures. It's quite a popular site for free textures, and it is very good, so go and check that out. I'll actually leave the link in the description if anyone wants to know where you get them free textures from. So these are quite small already, so it's kind of easy to... We're just going to go ahead and image size 512, 512. Okay. I'm going to do the same with this one. 512, and this one image. This is a bit of a larger image, so normally what I would personally do is crop the entire image to a 512 instead of having so much information in a small space, because what happens is if you have a large texture and you squish it down, just think about all that information you're squishing into a small area. I'll show you what I mean by just doing 512 here. You got to uncheck this, or at least you would do, because it's not letting me actually. Here we go, get constrain proportions off. 512, 512. You can see that it's been really squashed now, and it doesn't look as good. So you can see, look, it's pretty obvious the effects of what happens. It's squished what is 1,000 pixel wide into basically 512, which is not very good. But you know what, we're gonna go for it just because that is not the main focus texturing right now. It's actually the process of getting multiple textures onto a single object. So what we're going to do is just going to go over to 3ds Max here. I got a blank scene. I'm just going to create a box. Simple, standard primitive right here. And the length, I'm just going to set everything to 100. Let's make it nice and easy. Insert the values manually, and the height can be 100 as well. So there we go, and just nice cube right here, and we're just gonna go ahead and center it by right clicking on these arrows right here. You should have a grasp of your 3D package and I'm not sure what it is for other packages, but I imagine there's a similar concept for things like Maya, considering they're owned by the same company. So the UIs tend to have some similarity, so I do hope this is similar for you. But this is how you do it on 3ds Max. I'm just going to go and convert this to an editable poly. Face selections, select the top face. I'm going to extrude by 100, just so we have another 100 box on top of that. That's it. Oh, no, this is it. There we go. And we're actually going to do it one more time, so we have 3 boxes like so. Now, the important part of this is to actually set up the material. Now, previously on my other video, I think I worded it a bit wrong in the title and maybe explained it and did a bit of a longer method. But it's actually maybe a bit simpler this time, now that I understand it more. So what we're going to do is, very simply, we are going to highlight this top box, and if we scroll down here on the right, we should see material IDs. Now it says set ID 1 and then select ID. This is for like quick selection, so you can just select all the polygons that are related to that ID. Already it's set to 1, so we can leave that. We're going to select the next box over, so we've got all of this, and we're actually going to type 2 in here. I'm going to select the next box down, including this bottom face here. This top face should be still 1, and we're going to type a number 3. So now we've got 1, 2, 3. Now that is pretty much the basics. If you wanted to apply a texture to it in 3ds Max, when it's just one object, but you want to apply different materials in 3ds Max, you'd go into the material editor, and you can see here, this is what I did before. You would click on standard, and you change it to a multi-sub object, like so. We can disregard the old one. You would press set number, say however many textures you want. You could put 10, then you'd put 10 textures in, but we want just 3. So now the ID here is going to correspond with the ID we set here. So if we just look at this bottom bit, it's got an ID 3 on it, we can see, because we've got that selected right now. So we're going to click here, and we're just going to put a normal material in it, so it would be back to the standard. And I'm actually just going to put a color in it for the sake of this. We're going to put it as a blue, and we're going to press OK. Now, as you can see, what happens when we click and drag? Where does the blue get applied? That's right, it gets applied in the 3 that we had selected before. You can see it says 3. And if we just go back to the parent, it says 3 right here. So that's how it corresponds right there. Now, I did this before. This material right here, it should be a multi-sub object. You can see that I've got each material counts as each ID. So really, we click and drag that off. You can see that the material has been applied to all 3 of these sections. Now, obviously, it's all skewed, and it's all, like, you know, you got that bit that's okay and the bottom bit, but it's kind of all out of place. So then, simply, what you need to do, you can just go and type in unwrap UVW in the modifiers panel. You can select everything. This will obviously depend on what your object is. If it's of greater detail, this will take you a while longer, that's for sure. But we can just get rid of that for now. For some reason, it's not selecting anything. Maybe it'll work now. UVW map. Select it all. There we go. It's actually working now. So we're going to select it all. And I can go more in depth on what I'm doing in here, but the main point is to show you how and try and explain best you can get this inside an engine to have multiple different textures on it. We're just going to open the editor. We're just going to simply flatten map it. We're not going to worry about UV or anything like that. Did I actually miss something? I think I did. Or did I miss the bottom one right there? Okay, now we've got them all. We're going to flatten map it. You can see none of them are overlapping. That's an important thing when you're using UVs, is that none of them actually overlap. So you can see that the textures are a lot better now. They're not all skewed and they're all kind of nicely laid out. So now comes the part with getting this inside an engine and having Unreal recognize that you have multiple textures on a single object. So what you want to do, you want to select the object, press the main button here, and then you're going to press export, export selected, and this is the box I created earlier, so we're just going to delete that just so it doesn't get confusing. We're going to export it as an FBX. I'm just going to call it texture box, and I'm going to press save. The base ones you want are just something that's standard when you're exporting pretty much anything except this one. You don't really need that. Just you can have smoothing groups. You don't need turbo smooth. Pretty much everything is left on default. You don't really need to change anything for this specific method of putting multiple textures on. I obviously was doing some other things, so I had different options checked, but you can just go ahead and press OK. And now we're just going to head over straight to Unreal Engine 4. Boom, we've got a blank scene right here. I'm trying to keep this around the same time as the other video so it doesn't get too overwhelming for some people. If I'm talking too fast, please don't hesitate to ask me in the comments if for anything that I said. I'll try my best to remember and give you the best answers I possibly can. So simply, we're going to press import. And it already takes us to the tutorial folder right here where I have my 3 textures and my texture box right here. Now, I don't actually believe I saved these textures, so that's a mistake by me, but we can just go ahead and save them as taggers. Honestly, Unreal accepts so many different formats, it doesn't really matter anymore. So, but we're just going to save all these really quickly. Shouldn't take a jiffy. Like so, and last one, save as, tagger, save, boom, done. And then we got the taggers right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the box, obviously. I'm going to select the 3 taggers, which are our textures. Again, you may have more. I'm going to open them up. This one is for the box. We can just leave these 2 unchecked because we're importing our own textures right now. We're going to import. And you see we've got our 3 textures and our box right here. We're going to just drag this onto the scene. And we're going to just enlarge it a bit so it's a little easier to see and move it out of our spawn. So now, okay, we have our model in here right now. So now what? We have our textures and we have our model. How are we getting that on there? Well, it's quite simple, really. You can right click on each of your textures and press create material. You give it a name if you want. I'm just going to leave them as default. You can tell the difference between a texture and a material because a texture is a 2D picture view where a material is wrapped around one of these spheres right here. So we're going to do that for every single one of them. And then this one too. So we should have, there we go, we've got 3 of these spheres now. Now, to apply it onto the object, double click the object. And on the right hand side here, you should see 3 empty checkered spheres. I wonder what they could be for. Well, they are indeed for the materials. You don't have to just apply the ones you imported. You can apply any material into these boxes right here. So we're actually going to just drag the first one on, drag the second one on, and drag the third one on. Now I could go do another tutorial if anyone needs on just a few adjustments you can make to the textures, such as, you know, texture coordinates to scale them a bit better so they actually look a bit more detailed. And I can do tutorials on pretty much anything I know about. I'm more than willing to help people if they need the help. That's what I'm here for, and I do really enjoy doing things like this and figuring it out. But honestly, guys, this is what you can see right here. There is 3 textures on one object. And if anyone wants any more search keywords, then it's to do with material IDs. That is the main factor when trying to get multiple materials on one object. It's the material IDs. And you assign them in your editing program, whether it be 3ds Max or Maya, you assign them IDs like we did with the 1, 2, 3. Along this right hand side, you've seen that is what it is. That is how many textures, how many polygons are related to, you know, an ID. So you could have 10 and you just have to assign each polygon to a number. It does get kind of confusing if you want to use many textures on one object, and honestly it isn't suggested because it's not very good for the engine. It'll have a hell of a lot of draw calls and take up so much memory. That's why, you know, a character could have let's just say up to 5. A main character could have up to 5 materials, but the body would pretty much be on one material, and it would be on one UV layout, and it wouldn't Like each arm wouldn't be a material of its own. But that it gets kind of complex from here, but that is the most basic way I can explain putting multiple materials on a singular object within the Unreal Engine 4. Again, if anyone's got any questions, please feel free to ask. But apart from that, that is all. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to ask questions. I really do want to help everyone I can. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.